Oh, did you do we had to do them? Huh?
I think it was Nate. He said somebody had a pop now. Huh?
So accounting. Okay, cool. Yes. So accounting is the reason where I have like that much part. We economics is more looking at macroeconomics and microeconomics, which are looking at how society is function. So
I didn't hear that last part, Corey.
but yeah, so you get a lot of money.
I didn't hear that.
So
Before you left,
I didn't hear
I
that.
said, don't worry about it, 'cause I don't.
I heard that part.
yes. I teach 12th grade, government and economics.
Don't worry, you go take it.
In college, yes, yeah.
I already took that macro.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, then you wouldn't need my class then.
I still will take the.
All right, is everybody back?
One person is
Okay.
missing.
Wait.
You can go ahead.
Okay, I'll keep going. Yes, and thank you so much for asking questions. Ask me whatever questions you have. I'm happy to answer that. All right, so let's talk about this big one, healthcare. So, healthcare is expensive, and so healthcare in Dallas is 13% higher than the national average. So healthcare in this area is expensive. So we're looking at these average prices, and this is before any insurance. So this is just what they're going to charge you if you go in. To go see a doctor, a primary care physician, they might give you maybe 15 minutes of their time. So you're going to pay about $140 to see them. Dentist is on average going to be $120. An optometrist would be an eye doctor, $130. A prescription drug with before any insurance is averaging about $500. And then a visit to the vet for your animal will be about $66. So this is before any insurance. And we'll talk a little bit about health insurance. So I have health insurance. I think health insurance is really, really important. So because it saves you a lot of money in the long run. So this is my breakdown of what I pay for health insurance. So health insurance is typically through your employer. So if you have a full-time job, your employer would usually offer what's called benefits, which is health insurance. Medical is the basis of that. Usually most employers will have an employer contribution, so they'll pay some of what's called a premium or the cost of your insurance. So my employer, which is NISD, pays $315 a month towards my medical insurance. Then we have dental, that covers your dentist visits. You then have what's called a lot of just life events, just in case something happens. So I have critical illness, disability, hospital, or accident, which is just that peace of mind. If something does happen, I'm able to either get those hospital bills paid or possibly get my income paid if I'm unable to work for a period of time. So that's just that just in case insurance. You then have life insurance. Life insurance provides your family with money in the case of a severe accident or death, so that way they're able to handle your affairs and they're not stuck with those finances. And then I have a flex spending account, which I'll talk about in a second, to help pay my medical bills, which I put $90 a month into. So I pay about $335 a month in healthcare. Now that is on health insurance, not counting what I pay on visits and other items and things like that. So here are some vocab words for health insurance that you need to know that may confuse you a little bit. So, has any of you ever had to call an insurance company before? Call the insurance company. Call your health insurance. No, sometimes you have to call them and it can be very confusing. So it's good that you can ask them questions and they can explain things to you if you have a question. So first we have a premium. A premium is the cost of your health insurance. So what are you paying a month just for the insurance? That is called your premium. And a lot of these terms are used in other insurance as well. You'll see these terms in auto insurance, things like that. You then have a deductible. This is what you have to pay before your insurance plan starts paying. So if you have a $500 deductible, you have to pay $500 until they will start paying anything towards your health care. Now, the only thing that may not impact your deductible is what is called a copay. This is a specific cost that you pay for a specific healthcare service. So if you saw at the beginning, I said the average doctor's office visit is about $140. my copay to go to my doctor is $30. So I always pay $30 even though my deductible is like $3,000, but I get my copay every single time. So you then have an out-of-pocket maximum. This is the most that you have to pay on healthcare during a plan year. So my out-of-pocket maximum is $7,500. So that is the most that I have to pay. And after this, all care after this maximum is reached is covered by the plan at 100%. Here's why the out-of-pocket maximum is important. My second year teaching, so the 2018-2019 school year, around December, I got a kidney stone and pneumonia at the same time.
Wow.
It was not fun. I ended up in the emergency room. I was in there for maybe 6 hours. I got the bill was $3,000. So, then I had to go get surgery for that. They billed me for the surgery, it was $20,000. It was a day surgery. I was only in the hospital for an afternoon. Actually, my surgery was at 1 o'clock. I went to school, I taught my morning classes, and then I went and had surgery in the afternoon, and then was back at school the next week. So my total cost for all that healthcare would have been about $23,000. My out-of-pocket maximum kicked in. I still had to pay a good chunk, but I only had to pay $7,500. So that is why health insurance is so important. Now my deductible was about $3,000, and then after the deductible, my healthcare plan paid about 80% until I got to the out-of-pocket maximum. So, but you do not want to be stuck on the line for those really expensive healthcare bills, because if you have some sort of emergency, something that happens, those can add up really, really fast, and that can be very scary trying to pay all of that off. So when I had to pay that off, I had to go on a payment plan. It took me about 2 or 3 years to finally pay off all that medical debt. So, but definitely health insurance will help you out with that. So let's talk about flex spending accounts and health savings accounts. This was something when I started off in my career, I didn't know anything about, and I didn't figure it out. It's like my second or third year in the workplace, and I was like, man, I wish I would have done this earlier. So we talked about taxes and deductions when we were looking at paychecks. Flex spending accounts and health savings accounts are money that you can use for health care. Your employer will deduct it from your paycheck pre-tax. Emphasis on that pre-tax. So before the government charges you taxes, you put your money into your FSA, which means your FSA money will go further. So flex spending accounts and health savings accounts can be used on healthcare purchases. That includes doctor visits, prescription drugs, medical devices, and a lot of over-the-counter medications. It doesn't cover everything, but when I go to Walmart or the store and I'm buying something that I think might be covered by FSA, I always swipe my FSA card, so you'll get like a credit card that has FSA, and it will take off the things that are covered, and then you just pay with your regular card on what isn't covered. So the big difference between these two, HSA health savings accounts have to be a high deductible health plan. So a high deductible health plan, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's above $6,000 has to be your deductible. FSA are for lower deductible health plans. Health savings account, it's a savings account, so it means it's going to carry over from year to year and you are able to earn interest. Flex spending accounts, the money that you don't use expires at the end of each year. So it is a use it or lose it fund. So it's usually limited in FSAs to $3,200 per year per employer. So you can't pay in usually more than $3,200. Hopefully you will not need the full $3,200. But with the FSA, it's very important that you use it by the time the year is over. And so there's a lot of easy ways to use it. So on here is the FSA store. So it shows, that website shows everything that's covered by FSA funds. So if you have funds that are about to expire, look and see on there if there's something that you might need or use, so that way you don't let it expire. But I definitely recommend an FSA. I put $90 a month into mine, and so that covers most of my medical expenses for the year, so it's already out of my check pre-tax, and it helps my money go a little bit longer. So, but that is my recommendations on healthcare. All right, any questions about healthcare? All right, okay. Let's talk about debt. So debt is not fun. So how debt works is that banks loan you money and you repay back loans over time, plus you pay something called interest. You like it when the bank pays you interest. You don't like it when you pay the bank interest. So how banks work is that they take your money that you deposit through checkings and savings accounts and they lend it out to other people. And so that's how banks make a profit. And so a lot of times in savings accounts, you'll put your money in and the bank will pay you back interest. It won't be very much, but they'll pay you back a little bit. So, but if you owe them money, then they're going to charge you interest. So there is different types of debt to be aware of. First, you have an auto loan. So if you are buying a car, you may not have the whole cash for it because cars are expensive. So you might have to take out a loan that's going to have interest. Student loans, a personal loan if you just need funding, a mortgage. What is a mortgage? Yes, payment on your house, good. And then credit cards. So debt allows you to borrow funds but has to be paid back with interest. So my recommendations for debt is if you can avoid getting into it, don't get into it. So don't do it. And then if you have to, pay it back as soon as you can. So that way you are in a good shape with that. So let's talk about the difference between credit and debit. Do any of you guys have a debit card? Okay, good. Okay, any of y'all have a credit card? Okay, do you know the difference between the two?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So debit cards are tied directly to your checking account. So you swipe your card, they deduct the money straight from your bank account. So in order to spend money, you have to have it in your bank account. Now some banks have what's called overdraft fees. So if you swipe your card and you don't have the money in your bank, they're gonna charge you a fee, which could be up to $75 for not having the money in your checking account. So debit cards are tied directly to your checking account. Credit cards are borrowed directly from a bank. They will send you a monthly statement. So you don't have to have the money in your bank account at that time, but they send you a bill at the end of the month. There is no interest if you pay your bill when you get it. So it's called a statement. A statement is usually sent to you on every month. You usually have a set date. So like one of my credit cards comes in on April or on the 2nd of every month. So I know always when the date is. I then have a payment date, which is usually at the end of the month. If you pay it on time, you're good. There's no interest. Credit cards, though, is where a lot of people can get into a trap because they're like, I have credit cards, I have endless money, I can just swipe this thing and get whatever I want. And so you have to make sure that you don't do that and end up in debt. So credit, a lot of people get into the misconception that credit cards are a bad thing. So credit cards, if you use them wisely, can be very good. So it's important when you're using credit cards and decide to open credit accounts that you use it very wisely because that helps build what is called a credit score. Your credit score is very, very important. And so when you graduate high school and you're 18 and you're making your first financial decisions, make sure that you have credit scores in mind because this follows you and is going to impact the choices you're able to make later on. A credit score is a score from 300 to 850 that is a snapshot of your creditworthiness. So when you are applying for loans, for student loans, auto loans, a mortgage, sometimes even to rent an apartment, for new credit cards, they're going to look at your credit score. And that is impacting your credit history on how well you are going to handle your credit and are you able to pay that back. So here kind of shows the breakdown of credit scores. The lowest you can get is 300. The highest that you can get is 850. So, and kind of the range on that and what Americans have which credit score. So of course, the higher the credit score, the better, the more options that are going to be available to you. So there are several factors that influence your credit scores. First is your payment history. That is 35%. That is, do you make your payments on time? It is very important that you make your payments on time. You have to go, usually you can do this on the app. So I do this all in my banking apps. You go in, you pay, you can set auto pay up for this, but it's very important that you pay it on time. You miss a payment, there's usually a 1-month grace period for most credit cards before they report it to your credit report. However, you then have to pay a late fee, but if you go past that, then that's going to make your credit score tank really, really fast. Amounts owed is 30%, which is your credit utilization. You're gonna have something called a credit limit. This is the most amount of money that you're allowed to put on your credit card. It is recommended to not go up to that credit limit, but only use what you actually need because they're going to look at how much you use versus how much your credit limit is total. Next is the length of your credit history. So looking for how long have you had credit for? And so that is an impact as well. So when you're younger and you don't have credit history, that is going to be a little bit lower, but as you build up credit history over time, you'll be able to improve that. 10% is a credit mix, so having a variety of credit accounts showing that you can manage your money in a variety of different areas. And then next is new credit or hard inquiries. When you apply for a mortgage or you apply for a new credit card, most companies will run what's called a hard inquiry, which means that they will check your credit score. The reason why this impacts your credit report is because if creditors are seeing that you have applied for like 5 or 6 new credit cards in like 10 days, they're gonna be like, why are they taking out all this money? So that's going to make them weary about trying to open a credit account for you. So any ideas, how long does it take to establish your first credit score? Once you open a credit account, how long does it take to get a credit score?
The first day?
How long do you say?
First day?
First day? A year? It takes about 6 months. So usually at the beginning, it's just gonna say no data. So those first 6 months are really, really critical that you make good financial decisions because the first time you get that credit score, you want that number to be good. So also opening your first account, you are going to want to make sure that you look at the credit score required to open that account. A lot of credit cards will tell you what is the recommended credit score, or is this a credit card for new people that are establishing a credit history. What percentage of young people aged 18 to 24 have never checked their credit score?
70.
70. You said how much?
65.
65?
50.
Actually, 38%, which is still a third.
No, it's not.
But a lot of young people just don't know about personal finance. And so it's really, really important. So I commend you for coming here and being willing to learn about these things because it's really important. So a lot of credit cards and banks will give you your credit score for free. You can get it on the app. Your credit score updates about once or twice a month. So make sure that you are looking at. Some apps will also give you a little bar graph that will show you your credit history over time. So that is very important to check your credit score and to know what is going on. So this shows the credit score distribution by age. So we have the darker blue being less than 621, the lighter blue being 621 to 680, the green being 681 to 720, the light purple being 721 to 780, and the dark purple being 780 or higher. Who remembers what the highest credit score you can get is? 850. What are some things you notice on this graph about credit scores as people get older? Yeah, so why do you think credit scores get better as you get older?
They don't spend it on anything.
Retirement, okay. What else?
They don't spend it on anything.
You don't spend maybe as much, okay.
You have like less needs, so like maybe more money to put towards it.
Okay, maybe more money to put towards things. Sometimes you're making more salary as you increase in age. Sometimes you are learning more about finances, so you're making wiser decisions. And so there's a lot of factors that play into that, as well as credit history too, growing over time. So this is my credit score. I'm an 800. So I feel like that qualifies me to teach personal finance. Look at your credit score history over time. So that way you can look at where it grows. Sometimes your credit score will fluctuate. Usually after you open a new account, it will lower a little bit just because it's a new hard inquiry, but it will go back up. So make sure you are monitoring your credit score because that will help you be able to get new credit cards and apply for things. So here is my credit card advice, my guidance for credit cards. First one is never close your first credit card. That establishes your credit history. Your credit history is determined by your longest open account. So if you close your oldest account, your credit history goes away to your second oldest account. So never, ever, ever close your first credit card because that establishes your credit history. Your first credit card should have no annual fee. And I'll talk about annual fee credit cards and that kind of stuff in a second, because since you're never closing it, you want to make sure that you have one that you would be happy having for your whole life. So make sure you have one with no annual fee. Big one, pay off your credit card on time each month. Pay the balance in full. Pay it in full. Make sure you have the money. This is where budgeting comes into play. So pay it off. Do not hold a balance from month to month because then you'll start accumulating what? What will you have to pay? Interest. And you don't want to do that. Credit cards have the opportunity to earn points. And we'll talk about points in a second because that's what I love about credit cards. If you get credit cards with annual fees, make sure the benefits justify the fees. And we'll talk about that in a second. And higher credit scores will make you eligible for better credit cards and can get you more benefits. So I love credit cards because I figured out how to make it work for me. So a lot of credit cards will have benefits and that come with that. So I have 6 credit cards open. I pay my credit cards off every month. I make sure I follow them. I make sure that the benefits work for me. So here are just 3 that I have. First is this green one through my bank, Navy Federal. This is my first card, so I will never cancel it. It has no annual fee on it. It also earns me 1.75% cash back. The reason why a lot of people use credit cards instead of debit cards is because of the points you're able to accumulate from that. However, the interest is always higher than whatever points you're going to get. So if you're going to use credit cards, you need to make sure you pay it off. So what I advise people with credit cards is that if you make wise financial decisions with credit cards, you can end up getting some good points and benefits from this. However, if you don't make wise decisions from it, you can find yourself in a really bad financial place too. So make sure that you trust yourself financially to be able to use credit cards wisely. So that's my first one. I then have these two other ones. So I have a Marriott credit card that I pay $95 for each year. However, one of the big benefits that I get on that card is I get a free night at Marriott each year. Anybody know how much an average night at a hotel costs? For a good one. That's important, a good one. For a good one, probably at least $200, okay? So, we're not saying it a Super 8. So, yes. So with this one, I pay a $95 annual fee on this, but I get a free night at Marriott each year. I know that because I travel and go places, I'm going to use that every year. That Marriott night to me each year is worth more than $95. So that's why I choose to open that credit card and I pay that annual fee every year because that benefit is worth it to me. You also earn points through Marriott and I get status with Marriott as well. Then I have what's called a premium travel credit card. You will have credit cards that have very expensive annual fees. But if you look at the cards that have expensive annual fees, a lot of them have very big benefits that come with them as well. So I have the Capital One Venture X, which I love. I pay $395 a year to use it. When you see that number, you're like, oh my gosh, that's huge. But then you look at what the benefits are. First is the travel benefits. You get travel lounges when I go to the airport. So if you've been to an airport lounge, you know it's the best. No sitting by the gate. You are sitting in the lounge and eating. You also get TSA pre-check for free. So if you've been to the airport, TSA pre-check lets you go in the fast line and you don't have to take off your shoes. So yes. And then the big benefit with that is that I get a $300 travel credit every year. So I can use that on plane tickets, hotels, rental cars. And then I also get 10,000 points every year, which is worth $100. So this benefit right here is worth $400, which is more than this annual fee. So again, right there, that justifies it for me to have that credit card open, in addition to what I get on these travel, the 2% back. Now with these higher annual fee credit cards, with these better cards, you have to have a higher what?
Credit score.
A credit score. So you have to have that in order to open these. So this is why I say, advise people, if you are just using credit cards, if you use it wisely, you can end up getting some good benefits for it. I have been on a lot of trips. I have traveled to Dubai, I've traveled to Spain, I've traveled to a lot of places in Latin America. A lot of those trips have been funded by credit card points because I've been able to use this very, very smartly to work with for it. A lot of these cards will also have sign-up bonuses. So if you sign up and you spend like $2,000 within the first 3 to 5 months, which you're gonna spend anyway on your expenses, then you'll get like 80,000 points, which you then can use to get free nights at hotels, to get free flights, those kind of things. So this is what really interests a lot of people. So if you have questions about credit cards, I love talking about credit cards, points, and travel. So that's my favorite thing. But again, do this wisely. Very important, do it wisely. All right, now the last thing we're going to talk about, I think this is the last thing, is housing. And so you have to have a place to live, right?
Yes. Yes.
Very important.
Everybody said yes.
So you have the difference between renting and owning. So renting sounds like you do not own the property, you rent it. There's pros and cons to both renting and owning. So renting, the big thing is flexibility to move whenever without penalty after your lease ends. That part's important. Usually leases are gonna be 12 months. I have a 12-month lease at my current apartment. If I wanna leave, I can leave at the end of my 12 months. I don't have to worry about selling my apartment. Most apartments just require you to give the leasing office a 60-day notice in writing saying that you are moving out, you're not renewing your lease. Now, you have the same monthly payment for that lease period. So right now I'm paying like $1,500. That's gonna be the same every month during my lease period. Now the thing that happens is when the lease ends, what can the landlord do?
Raise your rent.
Raise your rent, and they will. Every time they will raise it. And that's what's come to inflation. My first apartment was in Forney. I moved to a 1-bedroom apartment in 2018. I was paying $900 a month. When I moved out of that apartment and moved to Allen in July, my rent went up to $1,300. I had the same apartment for 5 years, but it went up $400 a month during that 5-year period that I lived there. So, the big thing, landlord handles repairs and covers expenses. This is the best. Your AC goes out, your dishwasher is not working, your sink is clogged, you put in a ticket. You go to the little website, you go and put in a maintenance ticket, and they will be there and they will fix it for you. So that is the best part. My AC went out last summer. AC bills can be really expensive. So they brought me a portable air conditioner. They had to get a guy out, he fixed it in 2 days. So, but I had a portable AC at the time. So, but yes, the landlord fixes everything. So, but again, the landlord can raise rent. So pros and cons. With owning a home, you own it, so it is yours. It is a financial asset for you. That helps you build equity. You also have a place that is yours. Now, you have to pay property taxes every year, so that's owning a home. But you are responsible for all repairs and maintenance, including costs. There's no one to put in a ticket to, because if you put in a ticket, you're just giving it to yourself, because you're the one that has to fix it anyway. You have to usually have a lot of money in a savings account. You have to have a lot of financial capital. So it's recommended to put out a pretty big down payment. So that is a huge financial decision. Although the housing market fluctuates a lot. So you might have what you pay a little bit for a house, the price might go up so you can sell it for more, or you might buy it really expensive and the housing market changes and it's not worth as much as when you originally bought it. So again, there's pros and cons to both renting and owning, so it is something to consider and to think about. So this is rent income requirements for apartments. So I'm gonna focus mostly on renting because I rent, I've never owned a home, I'm 29. So probably during your 20s, you're probably going to rent for the most part. It is recommended to not spend more than 30 to 40% of your monthly income on rent. So again, you are having to look at how much that you are bringing in income-wise. Many apartments require tenants. A tenant is someone that lives there to make a gross income. Remember, gross is before they take the taxes out. So of 3 times the rent amount. So let's say the rent is about $1,500 a month, which is about on average for a 1-bedroom apartment right now. The required gross salary, which is before taxes, must be at least $4,500 a month, which requires the annual gross salary to be at least $54,000 a year. This is about standard for apartment complexes if you want to rent. Now, there are ways to kind of bend this a little bit if you don't meet that income requirement. First is what's called having a co-signer. So this is if you have a parent or someone else that will co-sign the lease with you. That means that if you are unable to pay the rent, the co-signer is on the line. So that might make the co-signer very wary, and if you are a co-signer for someone, it has to be someone that you trust that will hopefully pay everything off for you. The other way is to have a roommate. So if you have a roommate, so if you have a roommate, then they're looking at both of your paychecks. So that's the way there. So here is kind of a step-by-step checklist in order to pick an apartment. So I moved from Forney to the Allen area in July, and I went to about 10 different apartment complexes. And I'm a nerd, so I had a spreadsheet, I had my pros and cons, I had what I liked about it, I had the cost per month, I had all the fees. And so I used all that to make a decision that worked for me. So there's a lot of steps once you pick one. So first you have to complete the rental application. This is usually done online, you just apply. Second, pay the application fee. This is where they start taking your money immediately. So it is not recommended that you apply for apartments like you apply for colleges. When you apply for college, you probably apply to a lot of them. When you apply to apartments, you probably want to just apply for one that you're like, I want to move into. So you'll pay the application fee, usually on average $75 roughly. You'll prepare for credit and background checks. They will look at your criminal history, your rental history, your credit score. Again, if you don't have a good credit score, they may choose not to rent to you. You have to send over proof of income, so they want to know that you are able to make the rent. So when I got this new job at Anna, I had to send over my offer letter from Anna saying what my salary was going to be to prove that I'd be able to pay my rent. So determine if you need a guarantee or a co-signer. So if you do not make the rent requirements, you have to have someone sign a lease with you. Sometimes you have to provide rental references. This is usually previous landlords, what apartment complexes you've lived at. So when I moved to Allen, they called my apartment complex in Forney and asked for a recommendation. So, and usually they're just looking, do you pay your rent on time? Do you not cause any trouble? So those kind of things. So consider including personal references, which you usually don't need if you're moving to an apartment complex. Provide your security deposit. And then some places have what's called an administrative fee. So an administrative fee is what you pay them just to look at your paperwork. So, and you probably are gonna pay about $250 for an administrative fee. Then provide your security deposit. Security deposits, I've seen them all over the place. Anywhere from $100 to first month, last month's rent. So it just depends on what it is. So then you will sign your lease. It is very important that you read your lease. It is going to be 30 to 40 pages. You are not going to want to read it, but it's important that you read it because you never know what they're going to stick in there. So you have to make sure that you look at it, that you understand all the clauses, and that you look at the lease renewal requirements, and make sure that you understand what the notice you have to give is if you're going to move out. So make sure you read it very, very carefully. Ask them questions. Make sure that you understand it. If it's your first one, especially have a parent or a mentor look at it, so that way maybe they can make sure that everything is good. And then after that, you move into your apartment. So, which is the exciting part. So here's some things to consider when renting an apartment. First, where do you want to live? Which a big factor for that for me is my commute time to work. So when I was looking, when I got my job at Anna, I was like, I'm not driving more than 30 minutes to work. That was my maximum. So I looked at a 30-minute radius from that. So I was looking at mostly the Allen McKinney area of where I wanted to live. So can you afford it is a big question. You have to look at your budget. Can you afford the rent? Can you afford the utilities? Can you afford the fees? So the size of apartment, you have, for individual people, you usually live in a studio or one bedroom. Anybody know what a studio apartment is? Yes. What's a studio apartment?
Well, I have to answer the question.
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
It's like everything is in like one room. Like your kitchen, your bathroom. You walk in, it's just
One big one.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. It is one big room. I personally do not like studio apartments. I like my bedroom. So some people, they love them. So you depend what goes for you. Quality of apartment. That kind of impacts your overall quality of life. So when I was looking in the McKinney and Allen area, there were some apartments that were not very nice, that I could have saved some money living there, but I chose to spend the money to live somewhere nicer. That was important to me, but I made sure I had it in my budget. Was I happy about paying the extra money? No, but I chose that. Looking at your lease term. So lease term will often determine the price. So some leases can be 6 months to 12 or 13 months, and that sometimes impacts the price. You also want to consider what your life stage is. Are you planning on staying in this area for a while? Are you looking for a new job? Are you about to graduate college? Do you need the apartment lease to apply within your college years? So make sure you look at that lease term. Special/discount. Always ask them if they have any specials. So when I moved into my apartment, I moved into a building, I moved in July to a complex that opened in February of last year. They were getting first month free.
Yeah, okay.
$1,500 for free. They also waived the app fee, they waived the admin fee, so I didn't have to pay that. And they're like, oh, you're a teacher, so we'll make your deposit only $100. So it was the greatest deal ever. So when I went in there, I was like, I'm applying today. I was like, give me all the paperwork. So I went in there because they were my first choice anyway, but they didn't have that good of a deal. So I waited a month and went back, and then they had that deal. So I applied all my paperwork on Monday, moved it on Saturday. I did it fast. So you then have the roommates question. This is a question that some people are like, I don't want roommates. So depending on the cost of that, if you have a roommate, you may want a 2-bedroom apartment, and you have to look, is the 2-bedroom apartment going to be more financially feasible? Because that's going to be more expensive than a 1-bedroom is. Usually 2-bedroom apartments, I'm seeing them about $2,100. So if you split that in half, you're looking at about $1,050 each. So still less than a 1-bedroom, but you're sharing common spaces, a living room and a kitchen with someone. And would you be okay with that? You then have to look at moving costs. That can add up really, really quickly. I hired movers to move me from Florida to Allen. That cost me $1,000. So that cost can add up really fast. So if you have a friend that has a truck, you call them. All right, so that is kind of the end of everything. So that was, I know, a lot of information today. So I hope it was helpful though. So here's my finance advice moving forward as you just think about personal finance. So first is considering your personal money values and goals and aspirations. So what we talked at the beginning, what matters to you when you're looking at money. Second, if you don't have a bank account, open a bank account. So have a checkings account, have a savings account. So have that available for you. Think about building your credit score. So think about how you're going to do that. Don't open your first credit card until you are ready. So think about building up that credit score. Have a budget and financial plan. Make sure that you know what you're doing. Don't get yourself caught into traps. And make careful, thoughtful decisions. So finances is very, very important. The decisions you make on your finances, especially when you're young, set you up for your trajectory for the rest of your life. So it's very, very important that you are wise with that at the beginning. So what questions do you guys have? Yes.
Can you have a credit card and never use it?
Yes, absolutely. So, you have to check with the bank on what the requirement is. Sometimes they might require like once every 12 months. So like I have a Hilton credit card that I only use when I stay at Hilton's. So that may not get used very often. So, but if you have multiple ones, you just have to make sure you're checking each bank app, making sure you're looking at the balance and you're paying it off. It's a great question. Any other questions? Yes.
When you like spend really like large on a credit card and pay it off immediately, how come your score can go down?
When you pay off a credit card,
Like we pay off credit card, something big.
when you pay off a credit card, your credit score wouldn't go down for that because your credit utilization. So since you're paying off your credit card, you have more credit available to you. So your credit score would actually go up. However, your credit score is only calculated once or twice a month. So if you pay it, so it just depends on when they pull it, what your credit utilization is at that time.
Well,
Yes.
to just piggyback on what you were saying, because I've heard that you have to show that you are using the credit card, so it needs to be at like 30% or whatever. If it's always at 0, then it'll bring it down. So if you're paying it off every month before they run it, then they don't see that you've been using it. Is that true?
I personally haven't seen that because I have several credit cards that I never use. So,
Okay.
except for staying at places, but I do use a credit card at least a month. So, but I haven't seen that specifically in my
Okay.
credit scores.
Okay,
So,
okay.
but good
I
question.
don't know, I heard that some years ago, so I just kinda stuck with it.
Yes,
That
yeah.
you need to have at least something showing that you've been using.
Gotcha. Sometimes, now again, it'll depend on the bank. Sometimes they may close your account or maybe activate your points, but I've never seen that actually like impact credit scores.
Okay.
So,
But I do
I've
know.
had personal experience, I just wanted to see what your thoughts were. Kind of similar to what she was saying, and what they did was, they reduced because I wasn't using the amount, so they reduced my credit limit. And when they reduced my credit limit, it jacked up my profile, because now my usage is higher because I don't have that high credit limit.
The additional limit.
So it's like a whole, I was
No.
like, oh.
Can I ask you something real quick though? Have you been using your other cards though? Was it just that one you weren't using?
It was just that one.
So normally if you, I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. Yeah, it's funny.
So normally when you use your other cards and not using that one, it's still, they're looking, so you're extending yourself in other places, so they lower your limit with them to be more comfortable. Because they did it to me, I called like, what? But I was using my other ones on a regular basis, and so they look like, okay, she not using ours, but she using the other one, so they lowered my limit to protect themselves. Because if I got 2,000 with them, but I'm using it over here, they like, yeah, they dropped me down about $500. So, yeah.
Good to know. Okay, I didn't know that. Yes, so that would impact your credit scores because your credit limit would go lower. So, yes, that makes sense. Good question.
And then I'll say this, that I learned the hard way. Credit unions, I did not know that when you deal with credit unions, like you get a house loan, I would never ever again get my house loan and have credit cards at the same credit union. And that was because, or my car loans, because credit unions have a little secret clause that they don't tell you about, is that all assets are tied together. And I didn't know that. And so when I paid off my car, that was like, but you still owe $2,000 on this credit card, so we're not releasing your title. I said, oh,
Whoa.
do what?
Yeah,
And it was like, you got to pay that down to what we feel is an acceptable balance. Then we will release your title. I said, when you get this 2,000, you will give me my numbers back, because I don't want to stay with it. But it's just because that's a credit union. That was like, no matter what credit union you go to, that's but they have that option.
And that's what they
And I
do.
wonder if that's why their interest rates are lower
That's exactly
than
why.
a traditional bank.
That's exactly
That's
why.
why.
Yep, that's exactly why.
Oh, my goodness.
They want that's how they're gonna get the business.
Yep.
Right, and some people that read your stuff.
Read your contract,
Read your stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy, wow.
All right.
You have another question?
Going to college soon, how much do you recommend to save on food?
Yes. So this goes.
That's a good question.
So this goes to your money values at the beginning. So the college I went to for undergrad, I was only there for a year and a half. The food on campus was not great at all. So did me and my friends find ourselves in the McDonald's drive-thru quite often? Yes. So, but again, I was also working 3 jobs in undergrad. So I was an RA in college too. So when you're an RA, they often cover a lot of your room and board. So I was able to make it work financially. So, but again, so you kind of have to make that decision. Usually freshman, sophomore years, people live on campus, you'll live in the dorms, you'll eat on campus, and then I tell people, my advice is your first year of college, live on campus, meet people, find a good, solid friend group,
There
and
you
as
go.
soon as you have your
There you
people,
go.
get off of campus.
Get off
That's it.
campus.
So-
That's
I
expensive.
agree.
That's, I agree.
So,
I agree.
yes.
How much do you recommend like I save?
Save for college as much as you can. So that's, and I know that's on a finite number as that. And so with me in college, I got some scholarships, and then my parents paid for half of it. So that was kind of the way I was able to work it out. And then with the jobs, I was able to pay it off. So it kind of depends on what your financial situation is.
So y'all should get y'all grades right and help y'all people, your parents.
I get scholarships.
Scholarships.
Yes.
And grants.
It helps. It
When
works.
do you recommend they start applying or looking at scholarships?
Yes, so it kind of depends what your college decision is going to be. If you're going to go to community college first, so that's what I did, so I kind of tell you how I did that. So I went to community college for a year and a half. Community college tuition is much more cheap. I lived at home with my parents for a year and a half. Now, when I was 18 and I graduated high school, I was looking at colleges in Michigan because I wanted to get as far away from here as possible. And that's kind of where your mindset is at 18.
Right.
You want to be on your own, you want to go off and do things. And my parents were like, you should stay here and save money.
You should stay close.
I'll answer your question in a second. So, but you should stay here and save money. And so that's what I did. And honestly, now looking back on it, I'm really happy that I did that. So it saved me a lot of money. Now, I knew where I was going to transfer to. So as soon as I knew where I was going to transfer to, every college has a degree plan. So I went and printed out my degree plan at this college, and then I matched that with my community college courses. So I made sure I took everything possible that was going to transfer in. And I emailed that registrar so many times for a year and a half. So when I finally went to that campus, it was so funny because when I finally went to the registrar in person, she pulled out my file, which was this thick, of all the emails we exchanged back and forth. Because she's like, I've been keeping everything, we've been talking, yes, we have everything right. And so because of that, that saved me a lot of money because I only took the classes I had to take at this college, which was only 3 semesters worth. So that was a big part of me saving money,
Yeah.
is because if you could, here's kind of my mindset with community college. A lot of people go to campus immediately, go to their big university, and then they might run out of money, and then they come home. Well, they've already taken the classes that they have at community college because it's
Yep.
just basics.
Right.
So then
Right.
you don't have anything else to take, and then you don't have any money. So if you go to community college first, you save that money. You then go to university. If you're able to save that, you didn't have grad school money. So,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how it works for me. So again, if you're going to community college first, know where you're transferring to, print out your degree plans, and then with scholarships, look at what your university has. You're going to be looking at transfer scholarships as well. So make sure you're communicating with them regularly. Outside scholarships, outside universities are honestly really hard to get. They're really competitive, and so, but definitely apply for what you can. So,
You have to answer her question.
yeah. What was your question?
I'm good.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I have
Okay.
a comment, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, real quick, you all know that I'm at TCC, at Tarrant County College. And I'm in a couple of classes right now, when you're talking about the classes that, instead of taking it at a university, at a college, at a community college, or at the community college, there are so many already degreed individuals that are taking classes at TCC at less cost than taking it at a university.
University.
Yes,
Very
they're
smart.
doing that. I'm telling you, I'm just like, I'm sitting there going, well, if they offering it, and I agree with you, if they offering it at this community college and I can take it for less, then I'm gonna take it, but that save some money. That's what they're doing, they're saving money.
I was at, A&M, but I stopped, while I was at A&M, I'm
Taking
paying for the lower level class,
Yeah.
like I'm in my financial aid.
Right,
rate for
right.
A&M,
Right.
Out my pockets, I'm paying
Cause it was so
for the
much,
undergrad
yes,
class.
it was so much cheaper, so much cheaper. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's good. Yes, what's your question?
So I'm already in community college,
Mhm.
I'm doing, I'm graduating with associates.
Awesome, okay.
Would I be able to, if I do that, I can transfer my classes over to university and take less classes?
Yes, do you know where you're gonna transfer to?
UTO.
Okay, so I would recommend getting in contact with the UT Austin's registrar. So the registrar is who handles registration, credit awarding, all that stuff as soon as possible. And then start contacting them about the credits that you want to transfer in. Make sure they apply to your degree plan. So most colleges, you can click on their department, click on the degree plan. They'll give you like a printable checklist of the courses that are required. Sometimes the courses aren't titled the exact same thing, but they can show you what the credit conversion is. So, and then even if you finish your associates, there may be other classes that you need for that degree. So for example, I didn't need world geography for my associate's degree, but I needed it for my history bachelor's degree. So even after I finished my associates, I told my college I transferred to, I was like, I'm paying you all for geography. I'm gonna take it at the community college and transfer it in. And so you just wanna check with them to make sure what you're taking will transfer. But yeah, so you hopefully should be able to transfer a lot of stuff in and only be there for about 2 years. What's your question?
Do you need a certain amount of credits to go to college?
Of college credits?
Yeah.
Or
Of college.
usually not to go, so to go you don't have to have any credits. An associate's degree is usually 60 credits. So in college, courses are by credit hours. Most of your courses are gonna be 3 hours. Your sciences with their labs are gonna be 4 hour or 4 credit classes. So you have to have 60 credits to graduate with an associate's degree, and then 120 credits to get a bachelor's.
Oh my lord.
And it sounds like a lot, but it's 2 years for an associate's degree, 4 years for a bachelor's.
Since I have no credit.
So usually recommended 15 credits a
What's
semester,
it?
5 classes. Yes.
Cause I'm kind of cramming in all these classes, is there a way you like, what's like the shortest amount of time to get a bachelor's degree?
So let me tell you. So this is what I did my last semester of community college. So my college maxed me out at 18 credit hours, but I was enrolled full-time there and was also enrolled part-time at another college. And so I took 27 credit hours that semester, but it was online classes. I was able to have a strong work ethic. I knocked it out. So I was able to do that. So you could take as many as the ones you take. So, but sometimes they will max you out and say you can't take above this
Cause
number.
I got maxed out already, too. Yeah, for this semester, I was supposed to take 5 classes, but it was like, cause I needed my hours for my degree, like what I wanted to do for it, so they were like, you can't do more than like, I think it's 18 or 16 hours, I was like, oh.
18 they'll often limit you, but you can also take summer classes too.
I'm taking
So
summer
good, yes. I don't know what the limit on that is too. But if you know that you can do more than 18, sometimes universities will have an appeals process, so you can appeal to the registrar, or you could register full-time or register class at another college. And community colleges are pretty decently priced across the board. And there's a lot in this area. There's Collin, there's Dallas College, and then there's Trinity Valley over in East Texas. So you have a few options, and most of them offer online classes. Yes. Yes, question.
Can you go to college for like one certain subject?
Yes. So look at your colleges and what degrees they offer. So like my undergrad degrees in history, and then you'll usually minor as well. I minored in business. And so they usually have a variety of stuff to choose from. Now everybody will take what's called basics. So that'll be your first 60 hours. So everybody's gonna have to take English. Everybody's gonna have to take American history, college algebra, all those things. But then once you get past that, you focus on whatever you want to study. All right, well I do have one thing for y'all. I partner with this company for personal finance and they send me these workbooks. So these are again things that you can use or you can not use. I just wanted to give it to you as a resource. And there's a lot of cool stuff in here that talks about basically, yeah, so here's some of the next ones. So, yes. So there's a lot of really cool resources in there that talk about a lot of what I talked about. So it talks about salaries, health insurance, all of those things. So, but yes, it's a company called Bonsai, and they have a really good personal finance simulation that I use in my economics class. So,
Oh, how to go on a W-4? I still can't.
I was just
I
getting
don't
ready to
I don't even know
say
how to do it
this is grown folk don't know how to figure this out.
I mean, you know what? I gotta double check, cause I feel like you taking too much of my taxes. I don't think I filled it out right.
Yes, thank you.
well, my closing for you is an investment in knowledge pays the best interest. So I hope you learned something today.
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, yes, go ahead.
Is the SAT required?
Depends on your college. If you're transferring in, usually not. So sometimes they want, I can't remember what the test they're wanting right now is for community college. TSI, that one, yes. So they change the requirements every few years, and so it's hard for me to keep up with the changing requirements. So, but again, you'll just want to check to wherever you want to go on what they're requiring.
All right, let's give my hand.
Thank you.
All right, guys, what time is it? Anybody?
It's 11.
It's 12. Very good timing. Okay.